Trey Smith's going to be back in OTAs, and I think he's going to have a contract. We'll tell you why coming up next.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, folks. It's a Monday, and we are excited because we're one step closer to mandatory minicamp next week. And then that short break, it feels like it's shorter every year before training camp. We're going to run it down for you today. Thanks for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network. That's your team every single day, and we do that for the Locos and for all of you, our everydayers. We treasure you, and we want to make sure that you guys are getting everything that you can. So you can subscribe here on the YouTube channel. You can subscribe on the audio platforms, pretty much anyone that you can dream of. You can find us, and you can even get on the text line at 816-357-8781. That's direct communication from us to you. So check that out. We very much appreciate your patience and your resilience and working through another disappointing post-Super Bowl, but it's a new season. It's a new look. And for those of you that have been kind of checked out since the draft and you're starting to move around and get ready because there's a lot of news, we're going to go over some of it. There are some moves that they can make, some things that I think they should be definitely churning over the film and the looks at other rosters. That's coming up later in the show. We need to take another look at where the cap space is and what's a possibility and what is too far-fetched to be reality. But we got to start with the guy that is the start, and that is Trey Smith. So for Chris Clark, my partner over at KC Chiefs Corner, I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting. You can find my work in NFL 33 and RGR Football. We appreciate you guys checking out those as well. So from your point of view, I don't think we see Trey before mandatory, but I'm not really surprised. Are you?
I'm not surprised. And I was chuckling, in case people were wondering, I was chuckling because you say coming back down from a Super Bowl loss, and I'm sitting here going, they've been to 5 Super Bowls in 7 years. Like, I get it. It's not what you want, but 31 teams do not win the Super Bowl every year, and the Chiefs have been in 5 and 7. So it's just kind of funny to me. When I look at this, I don't think that he's going to be there for OTAs this week. It doesn't make sense for him to really show up and do OTAs. He knows the offense. He knows what he's doing. He knows all of that. There's probably a little bit of a question about if he shows up and does something in OTAs, is it going to mess up his contract? So I'm guessing that's part of it. Yeah, you could sign a waiver, but you can't really guarantee what you'd be getting anyway. So at this point, it's one of those things. So to me, it kind of makes sense that he's not been there, and it wouldn't surprise me that he's not there. If he doesn't show up for mandatory, which he could choose not to, that's some pretty decent fines, but yeah, it's possible.
I don't see that happening. That seems a little far-fetched. I agree. I don't expect to see him this week, but I think for mandatory he'll show up because, like you said, there's no reason at that point. The tag is signed. There's no reason to incur fines. Maybe what I think is the more likely possibility is that he shows up for mandatory and that re-sparks the conversation. Now, I don't know. I don't have it confirmed that whether they've been speaking the last couple months or not, but usually from the draft on, it's a little bit quiet. And given where they were, I think both sides want to get a long-term deal done because Chiefs need a little bit more cap relief. They need to stretch it out. I think Trey wants to be secure for the future. And I really don't think, despite probably what was a good gap on what they feel the compensation value was, I think they probably still want to get it done. So it feels to me like mandatory is kind of that kickoff point where we know July 15 is it, right? So mandatory starts what, 17th, finishes the 19th. So you're under 4 weeks before the deadline of July 15 to get that deal done.
Yeah, it's funny because every single year it's deals are not going to get done, and then all of a sudden, right before the deadline, deals get done. I don't think, and I could be completely wrong on this, but I don't think Trey Smith wants to go into the season without having a long-term deal. $23 million, he's guaranteed. I understand that. Congratulations to him. He could go get an insurance policy to get something in case he has some kind of life-altering injury or something that is out there, so he could do that. But I don't think he wants to do that. I think he wants to get a deal done. I think he wants to be in Kansas City long-term. I think he wants to play next to Creed Humphrey and with Patrick Mahomes. So I do expect that a deal is going to get done, but it's not going to shock me if we're still talking about this, the week leading up to that deadline and Trey Smith isn't signed yet.
Okay, so let's do this. If you had to put a guess on it, or a time frame on it? Is it before the 4th of July or after the 4th of July?
It's going to be after the 4th of July.
Okay, I agree. I do think this starts
I
the
think it's going
conversation,
to be like
but I
the
don't think it
13th or
wraps up.
14th.
Do you? Okay. That's
Yeah.
probably the way that I'm leaning to, but it all starts, I think, by we start talking about Trey now. The team's interested. They want to know what's going on. Next week, I expect him to be at mandatories. And then the ball starts rolling, I think, especially once the juices get flowing. If you're the player, you don't want to miss out on this season. You put in so much work to this point. Like, I can understand OTAs or OTAs, but you don't want to put yourself behind in camp. Not that anybody can come take his job, but like that urge to be part of the process and part of the five, like I think that takes over.
Yeah, and I think that there's going to be some of that. But the other side of it, and I will argue this, the other side of it, in a way, this actually works and it actually benefits Kansas City, because if Trey was there, he's running first string and nobody's stepping in, I don't think. At this point, they've got to rotate guys through because they've got to see, how's this guy look doing this? How, does he understand what he's doing and all of that? And while he's not going to take Trey's position, whoever it is that they're rotating through, it's important to get those snaps. It's important to get that time and to understand, can this person do what we're looking for? And yes, you're not hitting people, so technique really isn't a big deal, but there's still some technique things. And, are their feet working the way you expect them to? Are they, how quickly are they getting off the ball? All those little small types of things that add up as you're a professional football player, and coaches are always looking for any kind of edge they can get with everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's other competitions going on too. I've been in a lot of airports over the last 6 or 8 weeks, and I keep running into players that are doing various things. Guys that I recognize that have, pass rush clinics, the summit, the whole 9 yards. Like, everybody's still preparing for what they need to do come season, and I don't think that changes. In the end, if he were to play on the tag, which I don't feel is likely, I don't think that it changes anything in terms of the likelihood of them to be successful this season. Do you?
No, but if he doesn't get a deal done, I wonder if he shows up to training camp on time. Like, there's fines, and I get that, but is he going to drag his feet a little bit? I don't know. He seems like the team player type. He seems like he wants to be there and all of that. I just don't know, if the deal doesn't get done, what does that mean? Because we've never seen this type of scenario with Trey Smith and really have no idea, how he's looking at it. He's in a position where he should be one of the highest paid guards in the NFL based on the franchise tag and based on what Kansas City has done. So at this point, if it doesn't get done, what does that mean for him?
Honestly, if it doesn't get done, I don't think there's any way he misses any camp time, because it does him no good. All it does is sour him for potential free agent prospects down the line, right? Because you can't negotiate anymore. You're past the deadline by the time training camp opens. You have nothing to gain other than your reputation with other teams that you might get back to free agency at, right? So yeah. I think it would be a bad move if he were to do that, or if he got advised to do that. So, but they're not going to be able to get anything done without cap space, and without the Trey Smith contract, you're not going to get a whole lot of relief. So where are we, and what can they do next? Did you ever open your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, spending all in one place, so that you can stop managing your money and start building your wealth. Everything is in one spot. It's super convenient. You don't have to do multiple apps. You can go one place and get everything done that you need to know for your finances. Take control of those finances with Monarch Money. Use our code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL, all one word, for half off your first year. I know people out there are like, what is this mythical cap you keep talking about? Yes, I know it's not it's not the wall. The King of the North is not like standing behind it like it used to seem like. There are ways around it. There are gaps in it. But overall, the way the Chiefs operate and what they have, how do you view the cap space and the possibilities now?
Well, right now they're sitting at just under $11 million in cap space. So they have room. They can do different things. They can make moves. They can bring in players. They're not going to be able to bring in big players. They may be able to bring in, a veteran that is on a vet min deal. There's some of those types of moves that they can make. But the reality is if they don't get something done, they're going to hamstring themselves for this season and maybe even the future, because I guarantee you they were expecting a deal to get done with Trey Smith and that $23 million to go down to maybe 11 or 12 by itself.
Yeah, that makes a huge impact. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about a player who's going to be impacted by whether or not there's cap space and what the next evolution of the defensive side of the ball is going to be. So don't miss tomorrow. But for right now, in terms of maneuverability, so to speak, I believe all the draft picks are under contract at this point. Right? Am I wrong?
No, I think you're right.
Okay.
Double check that.
So that 11 means that this is your functional bank account from here on. I don't think that's terribly low. If the draft class is signed, I feel like that's good maneuverability. You could make a pickup if you need to. Let's hope that they don't go down the road of last year where there was enough injuries that you felt like you had to go out and make trades and make acquisitions. But if they needed to, they could. And that reserve, I think, is what's going to be really strategic about what we do see. I think there are a couple of positions, we're going to talk about that coming up next, that are going to need some attention between mandatory minicamp and cut down day in camp. And I know that's a long gap, but there are several phases that could happen. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But that cap space could get eaten away a little bit between now and week 1 of the regular season.
Yeah, it could. And it's going to, just based on going from top 51, which they are right now, that's how they account for the cap right now, to their normal, where you have to have all the players on the roster plus all your practice squad players are going to count against the salary cap. So that is going to change the math. And there's not really a great way to know what that number is going to be, because the reality is that there's probably some guys that are on the top 100 or top 51 right now that maybe don't make the roster. Just going to throw a name out there. Sky Moore is one of them. I mean, that's a guy that has a 1.5 cap number, or sorry, a $2 million cap number. And so you wonder, is he going to make the roster? Is he going to be somebody that is going to be here? We'll see. I just don't know. They don't have a ton of space that they can make. The only thing that they could really do to make space, to make a decent amount of space, would be restructure Jawan Taylor. I don't think they want to do that because next year is the out on his contract. He's already guaranteed money this year, so I don't see that changing anytime soon. So the reality is I think you're kind of stuck where you are. The only thing you can really do is extend a guy like Trey Smith. And I know we're talking Trey Smith. I know we're talking salary cap, but the reality is, and we'll talk about this a little bit more tomorrow, the reality is if you don't extend Trey Smith, good luck getting anything done with Trent McDuffie or George Karlaftis, who are two of the guys that you probably want to try to get extensions done with this offseason if you can, and maybe even a guy like Leo Chenal.
Yeah, there's a number there, and we will talk about that class coming up tomorrow. But in order to get that done, you got to get past what this current gap is with Trey. And I agree with you. I don't think they should touch Jawan Taylor. I do think that they're going to look, unless something drastic changes, they should be looking at that out, given the investment we've seen in 3 acquisitions since Jawan Taylor at the tackle position, right or left. And quite frankly, I think all of those guys in Moore and Kingsley and Simmons can play multiple positions. I think Simmons and Moore in particular are not locked in to left or right. So I think that there's enough variability there. That contract is probably one that needs to be allowed to expire and take that out. Is there anything else that you would be looking to try to massage, or whether it's an extension or a restructure with a veteran that might need to come into play?
Not really. I mean, you could maybe the only person that you would really have that's there that you could maybe look at extending would be Travis Kelce, but I don't think that that's going to be something that they're going to be looking at doing. I think that he's probably done after this season. And the only other guy on the roster that I think would maybe fit in that would be, I don't know, maybe Hollywood Brown, maybe Charles Minihue, but those guys would have to take small deals, and I don't think that they're going to want to take small deals, considering both of them are probably a lot closer to the end of their careers than they are getting another big deal. So, especially with what you look like, or especially if you look at like what Rashad Bateman got in Baltimore, those types of contracts are really going to inflate the wide receiver market. So I can't see them making another move and really making an adjustment elsewhere.
Yeah, that makes it hard. And this the wide receiver market in particular, along with the guards and the way that they continually are climbing.
And now that I think about it, I don't think they could do anything with Brown now that I think about it, because he just signed this offseason. So I think that they're kind of stuck with it. Yeah. So they're stuck on, I was thinking he signed a 2-year deal, but he did not. So I think they're kind of stuck with that contract. He would be the only other one that I would really see that they could probably do something with. And I don't know that they would go down that path, because pass rusher is one of the most expensive positions out there.
Well, I don't have a solution. I don't think they do either. We'll have to look at one possible scenario when we talk about defense tomorrow. So don't miss us there, folks. But there are other things that they need to do. Well, whether they have the cap space or not at the moment, we're going to set that aside. But where should they be searching right now next? Now, a week or two makes a difference. If you guys want to know all the differences that are made, check out KC Chiefs Corner. Check us out on RGR Football and NFL 33 as well, because there are other points of view, particularly on this team and the rest of the league, that we try to share as well. We appreciate your support. I think that a couple of weeks of OTAs shouldn't be earth-shattering, positive or negative, but sometimes it does tick the needle in one direction or another. So just comfort level right now, I'm not like surprised, but I'm slightly more comfortable at running back than I was 2 weeks ago. I still think they should be searching for another option, whether it's a post June 1, anybody who, in OTAs gets to mandatory and they decide to cut them loose early. Some teams will do that, like the Chiefs have in the past. And obviously cut down days. I still think that's a major target.
Could be. The problem is if you do that, where are you going to cut? Because you have 3 guys that you feel like can probably play in Elijah Mitchell, who you just signed this year, Kareem Hunt, and Isaiah Pacheco. So are you going to cut a rookie that you just drafted to do that? I mean, you can.
No.
Like, where are you going to go? Are you going to cut Elijah Mitchell? Are you going to cut Kareem Hunt?
I think they're the 2 most likely candidates until I see something that really solidifies something. You're not going to cut Pops, and you're not going to cut the rookie.
Yeah.
Well, I just think they should be looking for an upgrade.
I suppose that's possible. I just don't know that they're going to really go and do that until they actually see some of them in training camp.
Fair.
They can see what they can do. They can see what they can move and how they move in OTAs. But until they actually get on the field and have to cut and, try to move and try to, lower the pads and get through holes and all that, I don't think that really – they don't have enough information at that position probably to feel like they could go out and get somebody. And the other issue is who could they get that's going to be better, that's not going to cost them more than what they're spending?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I said, I think it's something you have to be monitoring and watching for, because there will be changes. I don't think there's anybody out there right now that I would go near.
Yeah. I still think defensive tackle is a position that they may look for. I don't know. I would love to say that they could get something done before camp. I don't expect it before camp, but I do think that it's going to be something they're going to be looking for before the season starts.
I have to agree. I like that they're trying to bump up the volume. And if you all have not been keeping up with our reports and Matt's reports from OTAs, the volume that they're feeding rookie Omar Normalot is specific, I think, in order to work on capacity. Work capacity for a defensive tackle is a variable thing always. And the Chiefs do try to rotate. I think Steve Spagnuolo kind of defended himself a little bit. Like, hey, it's all right that he never played more than 300 snaps in a season in college, because I'm going to rotate these guys anyway. That's what we do. Okay, well, that's fair. But Turk Wharton played 700 snaps for you last year. So whether you rotate or not, you still need a number 2, and I don't know that they have it yet.
Well, and they may not, and I don't know that they're going to be able to find one. I definitely don't think that they're going to be able to find one unless they make a trade of some sort before training camp. But the problem with making a trade is, generally speaking, you're going to be paying a lot either in capital or in money, and they don't have really either right now. So, I mean, they have draft capital, sure, but they're not going to want to give up what they have. And when it comes to the money side of it, they don't have a ton of money to be able to give up. And when we're talking about a number 2 defensive tackle, you're probably talking about a guy that should be making $6, $7, $8, $9, $10 million a year, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
I mean, for a decent one, I'm not talking about like another Chris Jones-esque type, superstar defensive tackle, but even just a good defensive tackle that should be a starter is going to cost you at least $7 million a year, I would think.
Yeah, I have to think so. And again, this is about cuts from rosters currently, whether it's now or whether it's during training camp cut out, which with the minutia of how you get to the 53 does make it a little bit more difficult. Because as I look now, there's nobody out here again that I'm willing to go after and try to give a chance to. It's got to come from an active roster where somebody else right now, currently tonight, feels that they have a defensive tackle on their roster that's worth it. And if they change their mind in the next 6 weeks, that's when I have to pounce, because that cut down day is going to be tough and it's going to be a flood. And then you're back on, I think, what is an unsustainable track to try to find a defensive tackle that can give you snaps after camp cut downs, like legitimate 53 cuts.
I think you're right, but I think what you can do is you can probably wait until like the 3rd week of training camp when the first preseason games are kicking off. And I think that's when you're going to know whether or not players are going to be on the move from other teams, because they're going to actually have finally gotten to training camp. They're going to be seeing the technique. They're going to be seeing how they practice. They're going to be seeing how they fit in their defense. But more importantly, they're going to be seeing all the other players that they have. Is somebody else stepping up that they think can step into the role that whoever we're talking about is filling right now for cheaper, or somebody that they want to make sure gets on the field more than the guy that is costing them a little bit more money. So I think that maybe you're not looking for somebody at the cut down day. You're looking for somebody after maybe the first week of the preseason games or the second week of the preseason games, and you get them an extra week or two before the actual cuts.
That makes sense. I don't know. I feel like there's enough bodies. We talked a lot about DBs last week, folks. If you missed Thursday and Friday, go back and check those shows out, because we covered a lot of the defensive backs, like what we think could be constructive and who might be on the outside looking in. But I do feel overall the volume that they have on the roster now for both OTAs and training camp, like they're going to have enough options. I don't think they have to go looking for secondary pieces. Do you?
I don't think they have to look for secondary pieces. I think that they're probably pretty good there, especially at the corner position. I think that they have to feel very good about the corner position. The question would be, do they feel good about who they have as their starting safeties? I think that they probably do, but that's a question that we're only going to know once the pads come on and we start seeing how those safeties are moving together without Justin Reed back there. So I think the DB room is probably pretty good. We've talked a lot about the linebackers too as well. I think that they're probably pretty good. It's just a matter of, okay, can you get somebody that is maybe more of a veteran that can step in and you feel better taking the place of the front three? Maybe, but you're going to pay them more, and I don't think you really want to go down that path with the linebackers. I think that they're probably going to go with what they already have. So I think when you look at this roster, I do think for the most part, it's pretty set. There's always opportunities there if somebody pops on their, pops up that they didn't expect to be available. Is there somebody out there that can come in and give you something that you don't already have on the roster? And I don't have a great example of that right now, but what I would say is, can you get somebody that would maybe make your 4th and 5th wide receiver spot better? Can you get somebody that's going to make, your depth offensive line better? If you can do that, then maybe those are the types of moves you make, but they still probably feel pretty good about who they have. It's just a question of, does somebody else pop up that they didn't expect to be available?
Agreed. This is a long way to get to this point, and it is because I've been getting some questions lately. I do not think the Chiefs are going to be in on the Dolphins' attempt to trade Jalen Ramsey. I don't think that's a position that they have to have an injection of talent, especially veteran talent. And I don't think that that's a personality that I want to see try to come into this locker room, especially given how young it is and that you have an in-house leader. But there are going to be other trades. So could they be in on some of these? It is possible. The cap is obviously a restriction, but we've seen Brett Veach do things before. So I would say keep your head on a swivel for the next 8 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, and all of this is subject to the thought process that we're looking at the roster as a whole right now with the way that it is structured right now and not knowing any injuries that are coming. So injuries are the big are the thing that are going to really determine if they make moves at some of the other positions. If they have injuries, then maybe they have to make a move. We hope that's not the case, but I really think that when you look at the roster overall, your top 3 wide receivers, you got to feel pretty good about, I would think. Even your top 4, probably you feel pretty good about. And I could make an argument that maybe you'd even feel good about your top 5, because if Jalen Royals is in your top 5, then you have 4 guys that you feel really good about because you already know what they're going to be bringing to the table, plus a rookie to develop. And I think that's where you want to be at that position. So it's really just going to be a question of, is there any other position that they feel like they can, go out and bring somebody? QB, I think you feel pretty good. Running back, I think they feel decently good unless somebody just pops up that they didn't expect to be available. Tight end, what are you going to do there?
They're trying to figure out, because they're feeding those guys like it's going out of style. Everybody's getting a day, basically.
Right. And but I guess my point is you have Travis Kelce and Noah Gray, are going to be on the roster. Jared Wiley, you think, is going to be on the roster, and as long as he doesn't have a setback, will be on the roster this year and active for them. So there's 3. If Breeding Stool is your 4th, you're not going to keep a 5th. So you're kind of stuck there. And then we've already talked about offensive line a ton. We talked about DBs a ton. Really, it comes down to, and we've talked about the linebackers. The only real thing that maybe is outside the thought process that maybe could happen in my mind is, and they've talked about competition there. Is there a kick returner or a punt returner that comes available that they didn't expect to be available, and then it brings a whole new roster question to you?
Yeah, and it makes it that much harder to answer as well.
Yep.
We're going to answer more questions tomorrow. Make sure that you were with us. To do that, make sure you're subscribed on the YouTube channel, on the audio platforms, all of it. George Karlaftis, Trent McDuffie, the rest of that class, what does it look like? What has to happen and what are our expectations? That's tomorrow. Do not miss it. I'm excited about it. Thanks for listening to us today. We'll talk to you tomorrow.